and look at it. Did they receive the presentation?
I did.
Did you get an email, Candace, from Traci?
It's a Google Doc. I'm going to try to pull it up. Hang on a second.
If you can, that's fine. If you can't, it's all right.
Okay, I think if the Skype will work that way, it wouldn't earlier today for me, but if it will, then.
I did not get an email yet.
Where did it go?
That one wasn't it. It's in another window.
Okay, I lost it for a second. Did it open up the presentation? Are you seeing it? I don't.
No, we're not seeing it. In fact, Traci, I don't see you at all.
Okay, it unclicked it. When I went to look for the presentation, it unclicked it. Okay, what I'm going to do is just minimize it so I can look from it. And if you can minimize it on your screen, then that will kind of give us a reference point to look at pictures, if that's okay.
Okay, I just have to go back and find it because I don't have it open. Did you send it to me also?
Yeah, it's Greening Our Schools.
It's called Greening Our Schools, but I will share it with you right now.
Okay.
Okay, I just shared it with you.
Did you share it through link or did you email it to me?
I shared it through Google Docs, so it's emailed.
Okay. All right, let me.
I don't think I have what we're talking about.
There, I just got it, Traci.
Okay, who else?
Just a second. If I can get it up on mine where I'm doing the presentation, I may be able to open it for everybody.
I think that might be the problem, Mr. Arnett. We tried it earlier today, and he said you had to be the person to send the invitation.
I have to be I have to be the one to share it. Just a second, and I'll share it here. Okay. For whatever reason, it's telling me I need permission to. Okay, Traci, can you still hear me?
Yes.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's just move forward, and then even if we have to send it out later to talk through or talk from, because
everyone who has it, if you want to just minimize it I have mine kind of the Skype in one side of the screen and then the little presentation on the other side, and I'm just going to go through that and talk about things, and if you can pull that up so that you can follow along with me, that'd be fine, and if you can't, you can just listen, and the things I talk about hopefully will make sense even if you can't see the pictures. Is that okay?
Sure.
You said it's in Google Docs. It won't let me open that up. Is that because we have the Microsoft Office 365? Will that prevent it?
Sometimes I have to go back and give special permission if you're outside of like maybe in a different district that doesn't.
Yeah, that's what it's telling me, that I have to contact the owner to give me access.
Okay.
That's the same way with me.
I'll get it to you all through email. I'll just email it to you, or maybe even put it on a website that you can access that way. But I'll go ahead and get started.
Is it so big? Is that why you sent it through Google Docs, or?
Yeah, it's a PowerPoint, and it's just lengthy, and it was a quick way to share it so that everyone could see it. But sometimes you have that blocked. So
Yeah.
one of the things in successful winter gardening is getting your seeds planted while it's still warm enough for them to get some root established. And so the problem right now of starting is going to be choosing plants that still have enough time to germinate and get a little bit of a root started before the bitter cold weather starts. And I guess I need to know kind of what point are you all at? Does everyone have your bed already installed and ready to plant?
I wouldn't think
No.
so, Tracy.
I
No.
do.
Then I'm
You
thinking,
do, Kim? Yeah.
Yes.
Kim does
I'm
from
good,
Leslie
so.
County.
okay, if you do have your bed already started, then you're going to have a very short window. Like if you could plant this week, this weekend, Monday, as soon as possible, you can plant some greens and probably be able to harvest some baby greens by around maybe February. But otherwise, if you don't have your bed in place yet, you're looking at doing some spring gardening because you're just not going to have enough sunlight and warm days to get a root established to where you're going to actually be able to harvest anything. You'd just be pretty much wasting your seed to plant after probably next week. And the only things you're going to be able to plant are and have some success with are kale, mustard, and maybe spinach and mosh. You can find kale and mustard seed at stores like Ace Hardware, maybe a Southern States, or a farm, if you have a little local farm store. I know here in Pikeville, Ace Hardware has seed. And so you want to plant just greens. You don't have time to get anything with a root, like a root crop.
Kale, mustard, and what else, Tracy? Can you repeat it?
Yes, spinach and mosh, M-A-C-H-E. And mosh is a plant that is, it's a gourmet green. It germinates in cold weather. So if you could get the seed at this point, you could plant it. It will actually grow through the snow and you don't even have to cover it. Restaurants pay big bucks to get it for their salads, especially places like Blue Raven, high-end restaurants that want things that are grown locally. And but getting the seed around here, because it's a little bit exotic, you usually have to order it. And one place I like to order is Johnny's Seeds, Johnny's Select Seeds. Once you get on their mailing list, and you can also order online from them. But I'm not sure, at this point, how much seed is still available, because that's one thing that companies run out of some certain things. So, but you could try ordering mosh and probably still sow it if you get it within a week. And then at Ace Hardware, possibly some farm stores, you can get kale and mustard or spinach.
Okay, Tracy, let me ask this, and let me ask Candace and Kim, since you're both on here with me. If I went to Ace or went to this Johnny Select Seeds and tried to get these ordered, would it be easier or probably expedite the process if I just go ahead and get them and then get them to you guys? Would you rather do that, or do you want to order your own seeds?
Well, I already planted kale, mustard, and spinach, but I don't have the mosh. And
So
I've
if
also,
if you have that already planted, then you're doing great.
but I've also planted some other things that I probably won't have any success with. We planted radishes and cabbage, and we're going to plant some gourds too. So I don't know what kind of.
Okay, you don't want to plant your gourds until spring.
Okay.
They're not a winter crop. You'll plant gourds in probably April.
Okay. All right.
Tracy, I don't know if you were on when Candace and I were talking about this, but what we would like to have happen, and I don't know, this may be unrealistic, and you help me here. You're the expert gardener for us. But we would like for the Action Research Summit in the spring for students to have harvested their vegetables and maybe set up like a little farmer's market there. Would that be possible, you think?
That's going to be a lofty goal, I think. I don't mean to be negative, but if you're wanting to harvest some things for your school cafeteria, and you're starting out, like, how many beds do you all have?
We haven't made any yet.
No raised beds?
I have 3 long ones, about 10 by 4. Yeah, about 12 feet each.
Yeah. I had 3 like that last year, and we start planting in August, and so those plants get a really strong root, and then by the time spring rolls around, we're still harvesting, from big mature plants. You guys are going to be harvesting from more like baby greens. Your plants are going to be small, and you're going to be harvesting the largest leaves from the bottom of your plants. And so by spring, they're just going to be coming into their maturity probably. And so I think if you set a goal of serving in your cafeteria, that's going to be very possible, because what we do is on days that the school has salad on the menu, we add to what they are already doing. So we give them kale, mustard, oriental greens, mosh, all of that kind of stuff, and they just mix it in with the lettuce that they're already serving and add the tomatoes. If we have turnips or carrots to give them, they add that to the salad. But we're not providing the entire, all of the ingredients for the entire day. Sometimes that salad lasts 2 days because of what we give them. They're able to set out an extra bowl the following day until it runs out, just because they had extra. But for you to be able to add to the school garden, I think is very reasonable. And even if you wanted to say next year, we're going to try to have a farmer's market. Everybody that has a school garden is going to come and try to have one thing they're going to, have to offer. Then I think that would be very reasonable and realistic. But, like, we're 3 years in, and our first year, we were just experimenting with one bed, just learning how to do this. If you plant your seed on hard soil, you may not even get anything out of that seed. That seed, just because you planted it, may not come up. So what we had to do, spotted, purchase soil from Walmart or Lowe's, we had to sprinkle potting soil on top of our hard soil to give those tiny little seeds a soft root bed to start in, to just get started, And I think this first year is going to be more of a trial and error, getting your feet wet, knowing how to thin things. That's all part of, it's not just we plant it and then it grows and we harvest. There's so many other little things that, take place that make it work or not. So I would say my goal for this year would be to serve in the school cafeteria, and then let's make a goal of next year we're all going to try to sell something or, have something
all right,
there.
That sounds good. That takes a lot of pressure off of us too. That way, because I don't know enough about it to know what a realistic goal is. So that's why we really appreciate being able to meet with you. Yeah, so that would probably be better if we just try to supplement what's in the cafeteria and then look for the action research next year to do some kind of farmer's market. Now, Traci, can you talk to us a little bit about, like, timeline-wise, I know Kim already has her beds going, and Candace, I hope to come to your vocational school and see if they might build the beds for you. But can you talk to us, like, chronologically what we should be doing and when?
Yeah. If you are following along with my presentation, I think it's the 4th slide down. Well, the 3rd slide down says get a mentor. Having a mentor has made a world of difference in our garden. And our mentor happens to be like the guru of all fall and winter gardening. She's doing presentations all over the country. But we just got lucky. Your mentor could be a grandpa, a parent who just, gardens at home. But having someone you can call and ask a question is extremely important. And so if you can be looking for a mentor, I don't care for you to email me whenever you have a question, but I don't consider myself an expert at this point. I've learned a lot, but having someone that you can just send a text and say, is it too late to do this, or is it time to harvest that? Like my gourds, I really didn't know when to pick them, and here it's already frosted, and, they're saying you need to get those harvested because we've got these big giant gourds hanging out there, and I wasn't sure. But the fourth slide then talks about the 4 keys to successful winter gardening, and number 1 is planning ahead. I can't stress enough how important your notebook, your calendar that you put all your plans in is going to be, and you have to be ready to start as soon as school starts. Like, I wanted to be out there the very first day of school getting seed in the ground, but, with scheduling and all the craziness of the first few days, we had to wait until the second week of school. And that's pushing it because kids don't even know procedures. They haven't even learned, or, me with elementary kids, I haven't even taught them procedures about safety things, where you can go outside and where you can't go. But we get out there, and by August 15th, you need to get started planting any root crops. If you don't get those root crops, turnips, carrots, radishes, those kinds of things in the ground quickly, then you're not going to have time to harvest them before the weather gets too cold. If those little carrots don't start getting some size to them by about this time, then it's just too late. So planning ahead, having those raised beds with your soil in it, that's, number 1. And then have your plans of how you're going to lay out your beds. And I'm going to show you a few little plans that we used last year. We tweaked them a little bit this year based on kids' preferences and what we learned that they really like and want a lot of. But having little diagrams, they can be things that you just draw out. It could be things you do on the computer. There's different computer programs you can use. But having a plan for those beds so that you don't just go out there and start throwing seed down and then you run out of space because you didn't leave room for something. And then start planting so those roots can get established. Then I tell about your beds. If you use soil from Lowe's or Walmart that you purchased, that's great. But if you didn't, like our first beds, we got soil from Mayhorn's, which is a store here that you can buy mulch and rock and that kind of thing. And it was low quality. Had a lot of clay in it, just hard. It's not been very rich, but the good thing about that is it led us to all kinds of different extensions on how we could improve our soil quality. So we started a composting system at school. We started worm farming to harvest the castings, and all of that is being used to improve the quality of that soil. And another thing is if you're using soil that has been donated or, isn't purchased from a bagged potting soil or gardening soil, then you need to have it tested, and your extension office will do that for you for free, and they will give you a report that tells you what you need to add to the soil. And Pike County was great. Suzanne Stumbo has helped me a lot. She also does a training in the summer and different times throughout the year, and if a group of you all got together and wanted to do this, I'm sure she would do it for you. It's called GAP training, G-A-P, and it stands for Good Agricultural Practices. Can you still hear me? I'm getting a message saying.
Yeah, tell me what her name is again, and I'm going to try to type in some of that.
Okay. Suzanne Stumbo, S-U-Z-A-N-N-E, S-T-U-M-B-O, and she did this training over the summer, and I just learned about it because we're part of the governor's garden initiative this year. And that was required for that. But it just teaches you things about how to keep your garden sanitary, things I had never thought of. Like, I always had the kids wash their hands before they went back to class after being in the garden, but I didn't have them wash their hands before they went to the garden. Well, do you really want a kid who's just been to the bathroom harvesting your food? No. So you learn things like that are commonsensical that I should have known and should have thought of. What if you have Canadian geese that are in your community and they're flying over or bedding in your raised beds, which some schools I've learned across the state have a real problem with that. And they have animals that are getting into their beds and using the bathroom. Well, that's a problem. And so she addresses that. She also addresses after you've harvested things, how to clean it and about your containers that you harvest into. So I highly suggest if you can take that training, do so. But
now, how do they contact her, Traci?
I just sent her an email you can contact the, whatever county you're in, if you contact your extension office, I'm trying to think of her exact title. She's the agriculture extension office, and they have the different ones, and she's the one involved in agriculture. Each county has a different person, but they do the GAP training. And they also do, as part of that training, food handling, how to handle food if you're serving it in the cafeteria. And like tomorrow is National Farm to School Day. All across the nation, people are going to be celebrating. And so at Hopewell Elementary, we're having Dress Like a Farmer. We are serving radishes that grew in Kathy Raymeyer's garden. We purchased those from her. Daikon radishes, they're rainbow colored. They're beautiful greens and pinks and purples and reds. And we've made like a marinade. So it's going to be a radish pickle, and every kid in the school can try it if they would like. And we've also had an art contest going on. So how did I get off on that from what I was talking about? I have no idea.
I probably caused you to. Sorry.
I did figure 8, so I'm sorry. I apologize for that. But anyway, getting back to the extension agents, they are a great resource. And so if you can contact them about the different the food handling, we're going to be serving those radishes. And so we had to go through, it's been helpful for us to know that we can't just go in there and start serving food without doing it the proper way. And as food service workers, they know, but we don't necessarily as teachers. So that was helpful, and that training is also incorporated in with the GAP training. And seed selections is the next slide in my little presentation. And I tell you, I just have listed there the things that we planted last year. We had 3 raised beds, actually 4, but one was in a very shady location at our school, which is like the most important thing you can do is place your bed in a sunny location. It's not quite as important in the summer when you're going to have a lot of sun anyway, but in the winter, fall and winter, you're trying to maximize what sunlight you have. And so sunny location is just vital. And then you want to only plant those foods that are going to grow well in cold weather. And so listed on my 6th slide are things that we had pretty good luck with, and some of those may sound unusual, like kohlrabi. We haven't had as much luck with kohlrabi, but it is a brassica plant. Brassica means of the cabbage family, and if I'm telling you all things you already know, I'm sorry, but these are things that I've learned, and I just feel like, it might be helpful to you. And anything in the brassica family is going to when it germinates, it's going to get 2 heart-shaped leaves, and those 2 little heart-shaped leaves are going to attach together on the stem, and it's going to look like a little bow tie. And that's going to give you a sign when it comes time to weed or teach your kids about weeding. You don't pick the bow ties, you pick the ones that look like grass, or you pick the ones that, are shaped kind of rounded. They might look a little bit like a bow tie, especially clover will look like that, but it'll have more than 2 leaves. So when your kids learn to differentiate a weed from a brassica, then you can turn them loose and let them weed. And you only have to weed from August until now. Once you get this frost and cold weather, then the weeds stop and the bugs stop. So the beauty of fall and winter gardening is there's no weeding, there's no pest control, and you don't even have to water once you start getting cold weather. But you do have to water, look for pests, and weed up until October. So that is a skill you have to teach. But you can see if you look down that list, I've got sweet peas. Those are not brassicas. Broccoli is, turnips are, carrots are not, but they still grow well in cold weather. Pak choy or any oriental green, they're going to grow well in cold weather. Any kind of radish, and I've learned so much about radishes and the different ways you can eat them. I always just thought you ate them raw, but you can marinate them like the pickles we're going to serve tomorrow. You can also roast them in the oven. You can stir fry them. They taste a lot like a turnip when they're stir fried, and they lose that spicy bite. But Spanish radishes, watermelon radishes, those are all really big. They're as big as a turnip. So you get a lot of meat on them. You peel them and serve them in salads, or let the cooks put them in the soups. There's lots of different things you can do. And then kale. There's so many different kinds of kale, and we did ours in the shape of a rainbow. You can see on slide number 7, they're in arches like a rainbow, and those are just different varieties of kale. It's not, rainbow kale isn't a variety itself, but we had red boar, blue curled Scotch, lacinato, and red Russian. And then in the corners of the rainbow, we put the mosh, and it's just that little tiny clump of gourmet green that is so hardy in the cold weather. And then in the salad bar, we had the kohlrabi, turnips, carrots, a brassica mix, which was just kind of a mix of oriental greens and kales that were just really pretty. They were different shapes and colors, and the kids had a good time growing that. And then the watermelon radishes. And the watermelon radishes are gorgeous. They are green on the outside, and then they have a little white layer inside the green, and then they're pink. They look just like a watermelon when you slice them open. And the kids love that. They love trying things that are pretty, and then they love trying anything that they've grown. So, you know, if you'd have shown me this list 2 years ago, I'd have said the kids will never eat that stuff. But I have to make them go in and wash because they want to eat straight from the garden. And the philosophy that if they grow it, they'll eat it is very true. Then the next 2 slides just show how we laid out our beds last year. That was the rainbow kale bed, and then the stir-fry garden. And one thing we learned about the stir-fry garden and what we changed about it this year is we planted broccoli in the middle, and it shaded out everything on the sides because it grew so big that anything that got under those big leaves we didn't have any luck with that. So this year we have broccoli all by itself and cabbage on one end of the bed kind of by itself. And then radishes are something that will grow really quick. So if you plant those in August, you're going to be able to harvest them. Like we're already harvesting our radishes. They come to full maturity really quick. And you can plant those under some things that are going to grow more slowly, like the kohlrabi or the broccoli or the cabbage. It's going to grow a little bit slower, and then you harvest those radishes and you have those out by the time they get shaded by the bigger plants. Green onions is something that we've had good luck with. We had green onions that lasted all throughout the winter last year, and Kathy Raymeyer had bought a pack of onions that were being discarded at Food City, like 50 cents on the clearance. They're on the clearance rack. She cut off the greens and just planted the little tip of the white with the roots still attached, just like a little onion set. And that's what we had all winter long. And this past spring, I had teachers saying, when school went out, are you going to take those onions? Because I want them. And they harvested them like in May, right before school went out, and we planted them in August or September, I guess. So you can have a lot of good luck with onions. I didn't realize they were that cold tolerant. And then peas, if you plant peas early, the variety to buy is Sweet Ann, A-N-N-E, Sweet Ann or Sweet Annie. And they are not a very big plant, but they mature quickly, and so you can harvest them before they get, because they won't last all winter. And, you can harvest them before the extreme cold weather sets in. And then you can plant them again in, like, February and harvest before school goes out. So that's one crop you can plant twice. Planting time. I just go over some classroom management in that next slide. How you manage your kids is important because you can't take a whole group of 25 kids out there and expect to be very productive if they don't know what they're doing. So I start out with team teaching. I work with the art teacher. We've done a big school beautification project. She was painting a mural on the wall, so she would have half the kids working on that while I would have half the kids planting, and then we would rotate around. That's another way I use volunteers. I would have a volunteer at one bed planting. I would be at the compost system teaching kids about composting, and then she would be planting, and we would rotate kids around. So if you have anybody that you can partner with or who can come in and help you, to just break kids into smaller groups to make it a little bit more manageable, especially at the beginning. Once you get them trained, you can turn them loose with things, be a little bit more independent. In high school or junior high and high school, you can, it's definitely easier, but with primary and elementary kids, the classroom management of it when you're outside, keeping them safe, you're going to let them water, you don't want them having a water fight. All of that is important. And if you have trouble or have questions about that, you can message me privately. Then I talk about the soil prep, and we'll get on that a little bit. Inclusion, if you can buddy up older kids with younger kids. That's a great way. Sometimes you'll have maybe kids in the gifted program, which is what I do, that you could pull because they finish their work early, and the teachers are always trying to modify and differentiate for them. You know, if you teach primary, let them come down and go out with you and be your helper. Weeding, there I show you a picture of a brassica as you go on down through the slides. Thinning. When you have kale, you'll plant it pretty thick. And then when they start coming up, I don't thin too early because I want to give all the plants an opportunity to get a little bit of size on them. But once they start getting up to 2 or 3 inches in height, then you need to thin the kale to about 6 inches apart. You don't want your plants any closer than 6 inches. So we'll go in with some snips and just snip right off at the bottom. Don't pull it out because it can damage the root system of the other plants around it. But you just snip it off at the stem and take that whole plant and then use it in your cafeteria or cooking lesson or for sampling, taste testing, whatever you want to do with it. Because if they are too crowded, they all start growing so tall, like my garden at home. I wish you could see it. All these plants are huge. They need to be thinned out because they start competing for sunlight, and then they get so tall they start falling over, and it's a disaster. So you want to make sure you keep those thinned out to about 6 inches each. What we do with our turnips is as one gets big, we go ahead and pull it. If we've got 2 turnips together, we pull one out so that, you know, we've thinned it and this other one's going to have a better opportunity. But we pull the biggest one so that we're going to get the most for what we can and leave the smaller one there to get a little bit more size on it. Pest control, cabbage worms are our worst problem. Last year we had a real bad infestation of cabbage worms. This year we've seen some evidence of them, but we haven't actually seen the worms, so I'm not sure if it's maybe slugs that are coming in at night and we don't find them during the day. The cabbage worms will hide on the underside of the plant leaf, and they are camouflaged the same color as the plant. They usually are around the stem, but you will see that black, if you're looking at slide 15, you'll see that black goopy stuff down around the inside of your cabbage or your broccoli or some of your oriental greens especially they like, and that black waste that they leave behind is a sign that you've got cabbage worms, so start looking under your leaves and don't quit looking until you find them. What we found are just some holes in our leaves, but we haven't found the droppings, so I'm not sure it's cabbage leaves. But that cabbage worms, those come from those little white moths that fly. You'll see the little white moths flying around. That's what's laying the cabbage, the eggs for those cabbage worms. So if you can get rid of those moths, then that would go a long way too. We just do a squish and stomp method of getting rid of them because I don't really know. We don't want to spray. So, some kids like that more than others. And then using low tunnels is our way we protect our plants. And if you haven't gotten any Grow Guard fabric, it would probably be good, Kelly, if you ordered a whole roll and then divvied it up between these ladies. And you order it from Deerfield Supply in Western Kentucky. Deerfield Supply, and you could just Google them and call them. A grade of 35.
And what is it called, Traci?
Grow Guard. Grow Guard. It's all one word. Agribon is another brand. Agra, A-G-R-I-B-O-N. A-G-R-I-B-O-N, I think that's spelled. Mary, if you need to leave, you don't have to wait on me. You can lock up and I'll let myself out. I don't want you to hang around just for me. Okay. I didn't intend to. I've got the whole central office unable to lock down because I'm here. That fabric is just covering half-inch PVC pipes that are arched over and inserted into the ground about 6 inches or a foot on each side, as far down as you can get it. You can take a crowbar or a tamping bar and make those holes and just stick them right down in there. About every 4 feet, you need to have a row cover or, a PVC pipe. So on our 12-foot, 10 to 12-foot bed, we have 2 different sizes. We have 6 beds right now, and our old bed that was in the shady location, our preschool department has taken that one over, so we actually have 7 beds in the whole school. But 4 PVC pipes cover that, and those only cost like $1.87 each at Lowe's, so they're not very expensive. Sometimes you have to cut a little bit off. We have to cut, they're 10 feet long, so if you go to buy them, you need to have a vehicle you can bring them home in. And then just arch them over and see how much too tall they are, because, you don't want them looking like Western wagons going through the prairie. Last year when we first got them up.
That's what mine look like right now.
Cut off, maybe a foot or two. I start with a foot and then I take off. It ended up being 2 feet is what worked for mine. So if your beds are about the same size, that's what you need. And then just arch those over and stick them down in. And in the grow guard, you're going to measure the length of your bed and then 3 feet on each end. And then you bunch that up with a zip tie. Arch it over your PVC pipe and then bunch it up on each end. And it takes about 3 feet to be able to do that and have it long enough. And we take a zip tie and pull that down. And then there's different options of how to attach it. We have purchased the little clips. They're like little PVC pipe. They're shaped like this, and they're white plastic, and they just snap down on top of the PVC pipe. We've also used alligator clips, those little things out of your desk drawer. We've used, my husband bought clamps for home, the big heavy-duty clamps. Some people just lay a board along the edge on top of the grow guard on each side, like on top each side of your bed. You pull that grow guard down to the ground and lay boards. The problem with that is when the ground is frozen, it's wet and it's very cold, but the sun is shining and you want to vent the beds, because I'll talk about temperatures in just a minute. When you want to pull it back, like in that picture on number 16, you vent it so that it can get sunlight. And if it's frozen and you try to pull that up, even though it's sunny, it'll tear your fabric. And the grow guard is much more durable than the Agribond. So I recommend it more. It doesn't tear nearly as easily. And there's different grades or thicknesses of that fabric. And we purchased a grade of 51. There's different, each company has their own number. But for grow guard, it's 51 or 50 something. And that's a little thick. So 35, 34, 35 is ideal. And if you need to double it, you can. But you don't want to leave that covered when the temperature gets up into the 30s. Okay, so 27 is your key temperature of covering. When you get 27 degrees and below, you want to cover it, because that's when it's getting down to where it's going to damage the leaves and potentially kill the plant. Above 27 degrees, some people will cover, but Kathy says don't do it because you want your plant to build up sugars. And those sugars are what make them sweet, and the sugars are like their antifreeze. It's like all those cells fill up with the sugar, release water. The beauty of a brassica and what makes it work is that most plants are full of water, and then when that freezes, they die. Okay, like lettuce or summer crops, tomatoes. They can't release the water back out, but the brassicas can. And so they, I've got all these pop-ups happening. They release the water out, and so when they're under the low tunnel, if you ever peek under there, I would stick my hand under and take pictures, they just look limp. They're just laying there. And then as soon as the sun hits them, they perk back up. So they're able to release the water, and then they fill up with sugars, things like the carrots and the turnips. That's why they're so sweet in the fall and winter, but in the summer, they're strong and bitter. So that fabric is going to be very important for you all to get pretty soon, because, they predicted 27 this past weekend. It didn't get that cold. And don't cover before you get to that point, because you want them to build up those sugars and develop the tolerance that if you cover too soon, won't happen. Okay.
Will plastic do as well as the cloth?
Plastic will work, but it will cook them way quicker than the fabric, because the fabric's a little bit breathable, okay? And it will hold the warmth in there. We did a lot of experiments last year with my kids. We would leave the thermometer outside and then a thermometer inside the low tunnel. And every time we checked it, there was a 10-degree difference. My kids thought because we had a 35 grade weight, it would be 35 degrees warmer, or a 50 degree weight of fabric, they thought it would be 50 degrees warmer. But that, when we covered, depending on the temperature, sometimes we had 2 layers, and sometimes we just had 1, but it was consistently 10 degrees warmer, and that's pretty much what you need to make it survive. You know, if it's 27, you're going to have an inside temperature of 37, and it can survive at that temperature. So plastic, the sun can penetrate inside the plastic easier, and then it's going to get warmer. So it would have probably been more than 10 degrees warmer in there. We didn't use plastic because Kathy said you don't have as much wiggle room. If you're not at school on a weekend, and like me, I live 15 or 20 minutes away, it's not easy for me to just run up there and vent, you know. So on a weekend that gets up in the 30s, I could lose everything if I use plastic.
Okay.
And so I'm
I
afraid.
will order that Grow Guard. I'll order that for everybody. And Tracy, I guess I can just ask the people at the Deerfield Supply how much I would need for 5 gardens, and each of them,
Well,
I'm thinking maybe have like 2 raised beds.
If each one has 2 raised beds and they're 12 feet long, then you're going to need an additional 6 feet. So you're going to need 18 feet of fabric per bed. And then you buy it by how much, you know, you pay for by how much you order. And so you're going to get it cheaper ordering for everyone than they would get ordering it individually.
Is it wide enough?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah, you
Pardon me?
ask about the width, but tell them you want a 4-foot bed, and then you want at least, you know, you're going to need to measure your arch, and then at least a foot on each side. Kathy Raymeyer, you've got to get on her blog. It's Mother of a Hubbard. Mother of a Hubbard, just like Old Mother Hubbard. Hubbard. Hubbard is a squash. And that's how she named herself. But it's really cute. She calls her husband Paul Hubbard, and her children are named after nursery rhymes. And she has a wealth of information on that blog. And one of the things you can look for is how she stakes and ties down her low tunnels. She uses a stake she alternates stakes. It's hard for me to describe it, but you'll see it. On each side of her low tunnel, she alternates stakes, you know, between the PVC pipes. And she ties a rope to each of those and has it zigzag across the raised bed, zigzag across the low tunnel, if you can visualize that. Then she takes a baby pin, a latch pin, and latches the middle of the fabric to where that string or cord that she uses covers. You know, she attaches it. Then she's able to push it back and pull it back. Very simple. All she has to do is undo the cordage on one side, and then when she pulls it back, that latch pin pulls the cord back to her, and then she just, and I haven't done that before, but we're going to try it this year. Because the wind will catch those little clips I was telling you about and blow it off, and then you've got your low tunnel just flapping, and you know it can freeze that way. So go to her website and look up how she ties down and stakes her cover, her row cover, and it's the way to go. She's got little videos that show her daughters pulling it back and forth. How simple. It's a PVC pipe at Lowe's, $1.87 a piece, and then if you have a school account, you get a discount, no tax, so it's even cheaper. And then that fabric, and the fabric is the most expensive thing of any of this besides your tools.
Tracy, can I say something real quick here, just for logistic purposes, to Candace and Kim, and then we also have Jackson Independent and Rebecca Bowling from Mullins, and I've lost track of who else. Middlesboro. They'll be participating too. Too many counties. I have a hard time keeping up. But anyway, I had spoken with Candace about this just a little bit earlier, and then I alluded to it in your email. You can go ahead and order your own materials as far as for the raised beds, the soil. Just keep all receipts. As long as it's soil, materials for raised beds, the fabric, seeds, seedlings, those kinds of things, we can cover with the grant. If you want something and you're in question as to whether or not it would be a covered expense, always ask, because I don't want you to buy something and then me say I can't reimburse that because it doesn't fit, within the grant. But other than, because it will be cheaper for me to order the fabric for you, I can go ahead and order that, and then I'll try to order these seeds and seedlings. But Traci, am I understanding correctly then? Okay, for Kim, she already has the bed planted, and so she's ready to go forward and just get her covers on and whatever. But with Candace, and I'm sure Rebecca and some that haven't started, their main thing from now until maybe early January or February is to get the beds built and get the soil in and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. And then they would start planting when?
Like they can start planting peas in February. As soon as you get a warm day to where you can, the soil's not frozen, you take them out there with little sticks and let them plant those peas. If you've got a fence line, let them hold that up and plant peas along the fence. We had a great time with that. In early spring, March, April, I'm not sure exactly when, I'd have to look, gourds. You want to start planting gourds? See, we planted gourds at the end of April last year, and we're told we planted too late. We're just now harvesting gourds. So it's fun to plant gourds and then leave for the summer and come back and then see how they did and then watch them develop, in the early school days. So it kind of gives you a bridge of we've got something actually growing and we're planting something new. And then, you can start planting a lot of those greens in different stages. Like you may want to have some lettuce that you plant late February, and then you may want to have some mustard and kale and things that you plant in staggered weeks, and then you have them at different sizes. So you have baby greens and then more mature greens. And, last year I got real frustrated in the spring because we had so much rain. I couldn't get kids outside because it rained and rained and rained. And then by the time we did get out there and planted, some things, the last week of school, honestly, the last day of school, we went out there and picked peas. They just sat out there and ate them because, we did our best. But really, as soon as you can start, and if you haven't gotten to do fall and winter, see, our beds are still full of greens from August. It's amazing how what you plant in August, you'll still harvest until school goes out. I even had teachers come back and harvest after school went out because we couldn't have kids out there anymore. But you're going to want to really be diligent about every single warm day, every single opportunity going out there and planting something so that you can have a little bit of success this year and kind of get your feet wet for next year.
Can I ask you something? How often do we have to water them? That's something I'm not sure of. Do we need to water them every day to make sure the soil stays damp and moist?
At this point, unless your soil is just dry, you're not going to have to water anymore.
Okay.
Like I don't foresee myself watering anymore.
Okay.
If I go out there and something just looks really, really dry, like we planted some spinach and mosh not long ago, I would maybe water that just because it needs a little bit more attention. But you don't have to water in the fall and winter. It's really amazing. The biggest thing is like when you plant in August and it's blazing, you're out there sweating. I come in and my clothes are actually drenched. And, they call me the gardener at school. Some of the kids don't think I'm a teacher. And you have to water then.
Yeah.
No, actually, a little girl was moving, and she went to the counselor, and she was upset because this whole big story about the gardener, and the counselor thought she was moving to a house that was going to have a gardener, and she was thinking, wow, she's going to have her own gardener. And actually, she was talking about me and not wanting to leave the gardener.
Oh, well.
It's been kind of a joke since then that I'm not a teacher. But you have to water then, and like our gourds, you want to make sure you plant those where you've got some really good soil. So we didn't do that last year, and this year we're going to try to make some plans to have a better, like maybe use half of a tire attached to the fence and let the kids paint them. We've done a lot of beautification out at our garden. And we have a live feed if you all are interested. It's kind of a techie kind of thing. We're trying to put technology into our garden. And so we have a live webcam that points at our garden all the time. And you can actually see a lesson if we're out there, and you can see just what it looks like. And that's linked to our school webpage. We have a little section about our garden. The kids did some videos, how-to videos that are on there, and the live webcam. And I have a high school group.
Traci, all those how-to videos are on your school webpage? Yeah. Okay, and if you plan to go out there and do a lesson, will you shoot us an email and let us know?
We'll be out there tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Little group of
All
sixth
right.
graders.
Yay, maybe we can watch.
We're going to harvest gourds tomorrow. So. And
What do you do with
All
them?
right.
What's your plan?
Our art department is going to be using them, and I ordered her a book of all these different things you can make from gourds. I've just kind of been collecting when I run across them. I bought one this past weekend at a yard sale that's cut like a dipper, because we talk about it, but when they really see it. I've just been collecting children's books and letting them read. I've got a stack of articles that I've been collecting. Readworks.org. I don't know if you're familiar with Readworks, but
Yes.
it's a good little reading website. And I found several little articles, reading passages about gourds. And so they're all different, and they're from different parts of the world, and how they use gourds for art or musical instruments or for religious, celebrations, that kind of thing. And so we're going to do some research and comparative projects with that. And they're just interesting to learn about. Kids think everything you grow has to be to eat, or a flower, and these aren't either one. So they're just a lot of fun.
My students wanted to make bird houses out of it.
I
My
think
high
that's
school students.
part of our art teacher's going to let them do different things, make some bowls and bird houses, and we don't have a whole lot. We didn't have as many as we thought, but we've probably got about 15 or 20 gourds out there. So. But if you look on down that PowerPoint, it just shows you things that we've done, like little extensions. We did worm farming. We have a pollinator garden to try to teach the kids about the importance of pollinators in relation to seed production. Albert Einstein's quote that's something to the effect of, if all bees ceased to exist, the human race would die out within 4 years. That is very eye-opening to the kids, and they start thinking about that, and that really makes them inquisitive to learn more about bees and butterflies and pollinators. And we mainly focus on mason bees because they're non-stinging, and that's what we want to attract for our school. So we made mason bee houses. Composting, and we get our compost scraps from the cafeteria along with leaf clippings. And we've learned about chemistry with nitrogen and carbon and all that. Technology projects, creating how-to videos, letting the kids journal, keep a journal and reflect, question, and keep a record of all that in their journal. And then at the end, I talk about funding. Your soil conservation district, if you've not talked to them, you have to. They will welcome you with open arms. I know my mom's on the Perry County Soil Conservation District Board, and she says they love it when teachers want to do these kinds of projects. They just don't have that many who do. My husband's on the Floyd County Board. Same thing. They don't let you just come and ask for things like Pike County does, but they have some not scholarships, but grants. So you can write for funding that way. Pike County, I just went and told them what we were doing because, I know from my family being on conservation district boards that they want to participate. And I said, I just want you all to know about it. And they said, well, what do you need? I said, I need a $100 composter. They gave me $250 just for tools, and and then they wanted to.
Who did you talk to, Traci?
I called
Who did you
Lisa.
talk to at the?
I called Lisa Birchfield.
Lisa what now?
Birchfield, and it's Lesia. Lisa, Lesia Birchfield, and she just put me on the agenda, and I went and talked to the board members, and then they asked me to put an article in the paper telling about it and telling about them giving us the funding because they were in hopes that other Pike County teachers would do the same thing. That's what they told me. So
Okay,
I know
Candace, there you go.
I know they're.
So.
And then I had my kids do the soil poster contest and essay contest, and I took them back and let them, meet the kids, and we updated them on what was going on, and they're just very interested and positive.
I'm sorry, but that's how I started mine, was through the soil conservation. They gave me $300 right off the top.
Yeah.
And,
it helps them to show that they're working with schools.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got AEP. They have a little grant called Teacher Vision Grant. And if you just go on AEP, Google that, you'll find their little application, and it's very simplistic, but, it's for any kind of project that you might have. I've written them for robotics before. Just, they're not hard to write. And then Pride, East Kentucky Pride, they also offer little grants. I haven't personally written one, but Kelly Scott at our high school, she's written them, and that's how we got our greenhouse that we have now. And then the very last page, it tells learn more about us, and that's where we've been featured on Kathy's Mother of a Hubbard blog, the Community Farm Alliance. We did a radio talk show with Mountain Talk Radio that's on their Mountain Talk, the WMMT Mountain Talk over at Apple Shop. We have a Twitter account, and that's changed. We changed our handle to Steamed Veggies because we incorporate science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. So Steamed, STEAM''D Veggies, that's our Twitter handle. And we're going to be putting out things that we do, like last year. We set it up through If This Then That. It would send an automatic tweet to people and let them know the temperature so they knew when to cover and uncover their beds. We have a school garden hauler. It doesn't always work, but we have one. I haven't been able to update anything because it won't take it, so I don't know what's going on there. But everything that we did last year, it's kind of a step-by-step. I would just post on there what we were doing at the time, and you can kind of see what was happening at different stages. The timeline you're all a little curious about. But essentially, you plant all
Did you just post?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you just post in the, in the conversation part, or did you post up in the documents? So, will they have to scroll through the pages to find it, or did you post it up where the documents are at the top of the page on the hauler?
No, I didn't do it in documents because it was just comments and pictures. This is what's going on at now, and there's really no documents there. I could probably put some documents, kind of like this presentation, but I haven't done that, no.
Let me say this, if anybody's having trouble with the hauler, Google, not Google, but Chrome and Firefox and those browsers will work, but Internet Explorer will not work on the hauler. You cannot go anywhere through Explorer on the hauler. So if you're using Explorer and trying to navigate the hauler, that could be part of the problem.
I always use Chrome. And sometimes I can post and sometimes I can't. And what I was trying to put on there was the link to our webcam, and it never would attach. So I'm not sure what was going on, but I'll try again another day.
Another question, what kind of thermometer do you recommend?
Well, to be honest, I don't have a recommendation. I just use two that were in our science lab. That would probably be something good to invest in. We had talked about getting a digital thermometer that had the little probe, but we never did order that. So I just have two little plastic thermometers that have the big letters, they're kind of made for primary students. And they were both alike, so we knew they were going to be good comparisons. And we just put one. In the spring, we would measure the temps inside the greenhouse, and then in the winter, as compared to outside, and then in the winter months, we would compare the temps in and out of the low tunnels. But, it's interesting to see that even our greenhouse on a snowy day would be like 80 degrees inside of that little greenhouse. So if it was sunny, it was interesting to do that.
So is it okay for the plants to get that? For it to get that warm inside the greenhouse?
No, we didn't have anything in there at the time. We were just curious. And then early spring, we did plant some things to transplant, and we had them in the greenhouse. And when we went out there and put it in, it was snowing outside, but it was, 70 to 80 inside. And that was just for germinating little young kale plants, and it was probably that last snow we had in March, maybe, just flurrying. So pretty much the only use of our greenhouse is starting seedlings in the spring for transplant.
I've got one where I'm at, they got it with Pride money, but it's so small, and there's just not really much you can do in it.
Yeah, Ours is more of a storage building,
So
unfortunately.
maybe if you can group that money,
Hello?
yeah, if you can, if you get any of those other little grants and you can group that money with the money that I'm giving you, and then next year, we can't with Leslie County, but Pike County, next year, Candace and those that are participating can write our innovation grant or our STARS grant for that.
Yeah. ARI is one of our partners that has, been great in helping us get started last year. That was my whole ARI project, was just seed and tools and gloves and fabric, the basics of getting started. And then this year I wrote it for 3 iPads and my high school students. And when these are created, they'll be out there to share. My students are creating 5 fun facts about the things we've got planted in our gardens. Each plant, for example, carrots. We have 3 different varieties of carrots, but there's just going to be one card posted in the garden, a little sign that's going to say the name of the vegetable, a picture, and then a QR code. And so with our iPads that we got with our grant money, the kids will go out there, and this is a way of breaking down small groups, so it makes it more manageable. How do you have 25 kids out there? You got to have things for them to do. So they can have a partner. Those partners can go around to the QR codes and scan it. It's going to take them to my high school kids' webpage that they've created, and there's going to be 5 fun facts. And it's going to have something to do with how you can cook with it, something to do with the nutritional value, something fun about growing it. Like, did you know carrots can come in the different colors of purple, orange, white, yellow? Most kids think all carrots are orange. And then maybe a picture, but they're creating this themselves, so we can control the content of what the kids are getting on. This is our second draft because the first ones are already made. They go to a website that the kids found online. Well, the problem is it's not kid friendly. It's information that's above my head, and I know what 3rd graders going to sit down and read all the nutritional facts and little tiny print. So that's going to be up and running, within the next few weeks. And other teachers could print those out and post them in their gardens and let the kids do the same thing. So that's kind of what our goal is. This website that they've created is really cool, and it's going to be linked to our district webpage. So once that's up and running, your kids could go there and use that as a resource as well.
Great.
Perfect. Traci, thank you so much. One thing you did mention that I want to ask that the folks that are in this little grant do is to let the kids journal to get the writing experience, as well as documentation and evidence of how we spent the money, because where all you had to do was volunteer to want to do a school garden. You didn't have to do a grant proposal. UK is going to be looking at me for documentation and evidence of what your students actually did. So, journaling is great, and then if you want to extend that.
One thing we did last year with journaling, journals were hard. I don't have the kids all day long or for a full class period. I would get them maybe 2 days a week for 40 minutes. And so by the time we got outside and did anything outside, then we didn't have time to journal about it. But if I had one of the best things that resulted from our journal was planning. I would let the kids plan what they wanted this to look like. You design what this bed, you diagram, show them an example of one of ours, and then let them plan it. With how many broccoli plants can you put in a space? Well, our guy from the State Department, the governor's office, told me every 9 inches we should put our broccoli plants. That was against my better judgment because I didn't think they should go that close together. Well, they're still not crowning, and I'm very frustrated with it. Those should have been further apart. They're robbing each other of nutrients. So if the kids sit down and plan that, they can learn, even if you're not outside yet, and you're planning for spring, that's something you can still be doing in your journaling, is planning what these beds are going to look like. If you want to do a beautification with art, that's what my kids did. What's this mural going to look like? What do you envision it turning out like? And they had some of the best ideas. And you can also tie in research, 9 inches apart. Well, that might work if you've got fertilizer galore, which I didn't have, to, keep stocking the Miracle Grow to them or something like that. And then let them defend their plan. Why should we use your plan instead of someone else's? But that could be something they're journaling way before you actually start planting, because if you try to wait until everything's hands-on in the garden to start journaling, you're not going to have, actually a journal could be several pieces of paper folded in half and stapled together. You don't want to do a composition book like I did and just use the first 15 or 20 pages. It makes it look like you didn't do that much, whereas if you have a smaller booklet, it looks better and it's not as overwhelming too.
Right. Traci, we appreciate you so much being with us today, and I will get with you a little bit later on an invoice and all that. I appreciate you being willing to answer questions that they may have, and so I guess that puts us in at two different places. Kim, you're pretty much in and going, and Candace, maybe it might take a little more planning and researching, who is a person in your community that could be a mentor. And then also I would recommend that you make contact out there at the vocational school and see if they would be willing to build raised beds for you. Or then I think, Kim, you were the one that told me about old tires or pallets that could be used to make raised beds.
The only thing the only thing that may be negative about those is they're just about 4 or 5 inches deep. And does it need to be deeper than that?
Yeah.
I've got one that's 6 inches deep.
Mm-hmm.
And the others
I would say. And there's some controversy to
How
tires.
big did you say, Traci?
I would say 6 inches at least. Now, there was an organization that came in. They were from over in Williamson, South Williamson area, Belfry, and it was something to do with the veteran. Kelly Scott connected them to me, and one day this summer they brought in a group of teenagers who came here from New Jersey. It was kind of like they were volunteering and just doing community projects related to gardening. So they were putting in community gardens, all these raised beds. They bought the soil. They didn't buy the soil. They bought the wood, and they came and built these 3 raised beds for me. I don't know who they were really, but Kelly Scott connected me with them. They had an unusual name, like the organization that did it. But I could find out, and if this summer they do that again and you want to expand, you have good luck. Sometimes these projects you can start them and then they're so overwhelming they become a life of their own, and then you can't keep it up and you're just like, what have I done? I've gotten too big. So that was a concern of mine from the beginning, but I was glad because my kids love turnips. It's unbelievable how they love turnips, and we wanted to devote, almost a whole bed. So we have half a bed of just turnips and half a bed of carrots, whereas last year we had 2 little rows of each. And so if they really...
Can you imagine? I mean, just think about that.
Oh, it's crazy. I have a little boy that comes to me every day. Can I go pick a turnip? I'm like, no, you can't go pick a turnip. You need it in the cafeteria. Go, get away. They are just so excited, and knowing they planted it and they're helping grow it, and they go out and look at it, and they're very protective. If somebody picked one of those gourds on the fence, forget the police investigating. Those kids would have their heads on a platter because they're so proud of it and excited about it. And the funniest quote this year, we have this gourd that is, I'd say it's 18 inches long and fat, big, huge thing, and it looks like a watermelon, but it's tapered at the top. And a little girl came out there in 2nd grade, and she said, Miss Hackett, that's the biggest cucumber I ever saw. I've never seen a gourd, what it is.
Cute.
Yeah. But they're very excited. And I've never seen kids as excited to learn things, Like, who wants to learn about carbon and nitrogen? Nobody. Until they're outside playing with it, and then they want to learn it. So, I think this is one of the best things I've ever done, but it's one of the hardest things too, because it's on top of everything else that, is still part of my job. So take it and, it's like eating an elephant. You can do it, but do it a bite at a time. So don't stress because you're not planning right now. Just make a good plan, get everything set for spring, then do that a little bit. And if it's successful, expand. If it's not, just try to, refine your technique and get that down pat for the second year, and then, go from there.
And I'll be touching base with you all, and just stay in touch with me, especially on expenditures, and make sure you save all receipts, make sure kids journal, and take pictures and post to the holler, because that's how we always check to see, what's being done. And like I said, you'll have a budget of up to about $400, and if you can partner that with something else and make your garden even bigger and better, that's fantastic. But make sure the survey that I sent to you, that you give that survey soon, and then also in the spring, like when school goes out, we want to do the survey again to see if the results are any different. And just Traci's little testimony there to that child just loving turnips and wanting to pick turnips every day, that in and of itself, I'm not sure some children even realize what turnips are. And when we look at the costs of vegetables and how much more expensive they are than fast food, it's no wonder children don't know what vegetables are. So that's our goal with this project, is to help children become familiar with vegetables and to help them learn to like the taste so that they will consume more vegetables in their diet on a daily basis. And then that in and of itself can combat, obesity and diabetes and many other diseases. So I have a PowerPoint that I'm working on that I will get out there to you, and then I look forward to getting Traci's PowerPoint. And so hopefully between the two of those, mine will help you understand what the goal and the aim of this grant is, and then Traci's sounds like it has a ton of wonderful, helpful information in it. So if I can do anything to help you in any way, make sure you email me.
Let me tell you something else, and I'll be quiet, I promise. When you go to buy something, talk to the manager first. Tell them what your project is, what you're trying to do. Lowe's worked out a great deal for me this year. They let me buy all of their damaged bags of soil, things that had a hole in them or, something was wrong with it. And so it made my money go way further than it would have. Walmart gave me a $50 gift card to apply because I was going to buy soil from them, and I asked if they could help me, with a discount or something, or throw in a few bags extra. So they gave me a $50 gift card to apply toward what I was going to buy, which made my money go further. Ace Hardware gave me paint for the mural, and Lowe's gave me 2 gallons of brand new paint. They just marked it down like it was discard. Ace gave me paint that was going to be, on sale that was mismixed for outdoor if you want to get your art teachers involved, in the beautification process. We did stepping stones, all kinds of things. You'll see it if you look at the webcam. Then, what's the other thing? There was 2 things. What else were you talking about, Kelly? It made me think. Asking for discounts, because just about anybody will cut you a deal. Tractor Supply gave me the manager's discount when I bought tools last year. Just about any place I've gone and told them about a project, they've given me something. And then, I can't remember. That's not been that important, but I thought it was.
While Traci's thinking of that, some of these old timers in your communities, if you research and you start talking to them, who knows, they may have soil and seedlings and different things that they not only would mentor but help you with. But I think people are always willing to help when it's children that are learning to be gardeners. So ask. And Candace is in middle school, and then Kim in high school. So your students can ask. Your students can, be very involved in this project for a project-based learning type activity. So, all right, girls, it's 10 till 6 on a Thursday night or a Wednesday night. I know we're all need to jump off here, but I've recorded this and I'll save it, and I'll post it on YouTube and then put the link to YouTube on the holler so that anybody that wants to access it for the information will be able to do so. Traci, again, thank you so much. Candace and Kim, thank you. Stay in touch, and we'll get through this. Bye, guys.
Bye.